Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's Amy Izzo here. I am a realtor and a business coach in Northwest Indiana and Illinois. And I have a team here as well. And today I wanted to chat with all of you about seller appointments, right? Getting more seller appointments, and a really cool tool that we're using on my team to help. We've been using it for a long time, but I thought it would be a good time to revisit it. We're using it on my team to get more CMAs out to our sellers. So hoping that everybody can see what I want them to see on my screen. Let's see. Do I have anybody in here? Do you guys see the HomeBot screen on my? Someone give me a yes or a no.
Yep, we see it.
Perfect. You're seeing HomeBot. Great. Thank you for that. So we're going to make sure you're seeing HomeBot. So I want to talk about this HomeBot tool. I don't know how many of you know about it. It's a really great tool that's very low cost. It's $25 a month. I've been using it for quite a while, and I thought it would be a good time to revisit it, especially as we focus on listings, right? Getting as many listings as we can in the marketplace. I feel like I'm always focused on that, but more now than ever, probably because it's summertime now. It's getting to be into spring market, into summertime market, and good time for people to be listing their homes. HomeBot is a really cool tool that when you utilize it to its fullest, and I would say even if you just utilize it for sellers, because there is a buyer component, but I would say even if you utilize it just for sellers, it really does a nice job of engaging your sellers and keeping them engaged. So let me show you. Here is one. So this is a seller that loaded their property, or asked us to load their property into our CMA system and kind of keep them apprised of what's happening. So I'm going to go back. I don't know if I can go all the way back, but they've been in here for quite a while. So let's just go 7 months ago. So 7 months ago, they got a notification that their home value went up. So I have their property address. I have their email address. I don't have their phone number, but I don't need it. I can stop over if I want to, right? I can drop stuff off. I can mail them stuff. But their home value went up, right? So, and they have been playing with the tool. It says a new loan was added for them. They would have added that. It says a digest was emailed to them. That just means the system is emailing them on a regular basis. And it shows me how often they're opening their emails. Right, so you can see they're opening the email on this home value digest. Digest is just the word for home value that the system uses pretty often. They're viewing, they're opening, they're viewing, they're opening. And every time home value changes up or down, they get an email automatically. It's just based on the algorithms and to tell them what's happening. And they can go in and they can view a bunch of different things. So if I want to see what they're looking at, I can preview what they've received last from me. So this system allows you to put an address and an email address and a phone number and a seller's name in when they ask for CMA. Within 24 hours, it sends them a digest, which looks like this one here, tells them what the value of their home is. It looks like you created a website that's just for them. So it loads your information here. So there I am, with my information, how to reach me direct. And so when they click on, they get an email that says, your home value is here. Your home value has changed, right? So the first one is going to be like, your home value is here. Click on this link. They click on a link and they go into this system called HomeBot. They can see HomeBot. They see everything you see on the screen here, but they see my information so front and center. Then they see their home value. So here's your estimated home value. They get a little chart that shows them how their home value has changed. So, in this case, over the last 3 years, it gives their zip code and gives a little information about just a statement about that zip code. So the zip code is balanced, but picking up. You want to know why? You can click on why, right? Here's why. So it gives them a little bit of information, right? So it says, it tells them what a balanced market is. So it says a balanced market has decent inventory and a healthy amount of buyers. You could likely sell your home on an average timeline for a moderate amount, right? It shows them in a balanced market. Is it easier to sell or easier to buy? So it's showing them that it's easier to sell in a balanced market, and it's showing them since July of 22 through this last one, which was, looks like March of 24, what the valuations have been and where they would fall on this chart. And then it gives them a little information. There are 77 homes in your market that are selling in around 144 days. Gives them the average information for homes in their area. And then says, hey, now might be a good time to sell, right? So you have two strong selling signals. So, and it kind of tells them you have high appreciation, you have a good cash position, you're in a balanced market. Oh, you want more details on this? You can click on that. So there's a lot of tools that they can play with, a lot of things that they can do in the system to be engaged and be learning about what's happening with their home and also in the market. Also estimates based on what it thinks, based on the public record, estimates what they, how much equity they have, and gives them just things that they might want to do with their equity, ideas of things to do with their equity, right? So here you have about $220,000 that you could cash out of your home, right? So this could be accurate or it may not be accurate. It just depends on if the public record is updated enough relative to how much they've actually paid on their home. Also, how accurate do we think this value is? I find it sometimes the value is accurate, sometimes it's off. It doesn't bother me if value is too high or too low, because if a seller disagrees with the value, they'll tell you. They will tell you through the system and you'll get a notification. I love when they tell me that they disagree with the value, because it gives me a chance to run an actual CMA for them and go back to them and explain the valuation to them. So it allows me to engage with them. But until they're ready to engage with me, right, and answer a phone call that I make, or they actually call me themselves, I can see everything they're doing in this system, right? And they can send a message. So they can say, it says, want to learn more? Ask your expert, right? So they can send me a message. What are my cash out options? What would my refi rate be? Or they can type a question in. And when they either send me one of these or type it in, it comes to my email and it'll say, hey, this person wants to know what their cash out options are. And now I can call them and say, hey, you sent me this and you asked me what your cash out options are. I'm returning your call, right? I'm here to help. So it's got a lot of tools in here. Let me go and kind of show you. So this is where we were. It freaked out on me. Hang on, I'm going to go back. So this is where we were. We were previewing the digest. Let me go back to there. So we were previewing the digest and I got as far as the home value, and then I started clicking on all these little tools, right? If I hadn't clicked and I would go down, it gives them all kinds of things. So you might have up to $603,000 in purchasing power for a new home. Get more details. You might be able to use 220 of your equity, right, to feel more ready for a storm, right, or whatever, or emergency fund basically. You could share home bought if you want someone else to know this. What have you paid so far? So it gives them these little tools, right? How much has gone through of your payment has gone through principal towards interest. If you added money to your payment every month, what would happen? It just gives you all kinds of things, gives them national trends. It's all these little tools they can play with, gives them ideas of what to do, and prompts them to ask me questions along the way if they have questions, gives them ideas. So a lot of times my sellers that are in here will go in and they will look at their refinance options, and I can tip my lender off. Hey, so-and-so's looking for a refinance. So, and I can reach out to them as well and make sure that, hey, they know I'm providing options for them if they want to refinance. I'm not just there when they want to buy and sell, which is always a referral opportunity for me, which is always a testimonial opportunity for me if I haven't gotten one from them ever or recently. And then again, I'll be there when they're ready to actually do something, or if that refinance becomes an opportunity to buy or sell. Gives them information about Airbnb. This is all built in. Hey, if you went to Airbnb, what would that look like? Maybe they would never be interested in that, but it keeps them engaged. So there's a lot of things here to keep them engaged, and it keeps me front and center. On every page and everything they do, it keeps me front and center. So it really is kind of their own website that they can play with, and they can tune the value on. Now, one cool thing, I'm going to show you another client. So for me, every buyer closing is now a homeowner. So they all go into HomeBot. So even though I have a CRM, I use Follow Up Boss. Everybody is in Follow Up Boss, right? That's where I keep them. Everybody that closes on a home that they purchase with me or my team gets added to HomeBot. That's the first thing that we do, right? As we're closing that transaction out in our transaction management software, so we get paid. We also have an action item to put them into HomeBot so that they automatically start getting a home valuation. They're going to get a home valuation email once a month from HomeBot automatically with my information on it. And that's always going to remind them that it's there. I get almost no unsubscribes from this tool for years. Almost no unsubscribes. We tell our clients that they're going to get this tool. Here's a guy who I've actually worked with. So here's a homeowner that I've worked with. I actually sold this property for him. But I want to see. This shows me all of his activity. He's actually still watching he has another property in here. He's actually, even just 20 days ago, he was in my system, and I think he's been in here for 3 years. So even just 20 days ago, he was in here looking at his digest. He's never unsubscribed. He uses the tool. I want to look at his digest. I think that's where you can see. When I first met him, he only had one home in here. And when I went in and I was looking at what he was doing, so I'd go in here from time to time to see what my seller activity is, I noticed that when I previewed his digest that there was another home listed. He actually added that home. I didn't know he owned 2 homes at the time. Now I do. So now he's getting values on both homes every month, and I know he owns an additional home. So this was his last digest on that one, just shows him the value of that home, allows him to tune the values. If he disagrees with the value, he can say, I think it should be higher or lower. And when he does that, I won't do it here, but when he does that, it'll notify me that he thinks the value in HomeBot is wrong. And it'll tell me what he thinks it is, and I can validate that and call him. So says what's happening in his zip code, all the same things we just saw, gives him ideas of what he can do, all the same things. So it's the same thing for everybody. So I tell all my buyers when they're closing that they're going to start, they're now homeowners, so they're going to start to get an email from me once a month to keep them up to speed on what their home value is, because they should want to know that as a homeowner. Let's see if I have anybody that needs a CMA right now. You do? Yes, I do have some people that want. Well, I didn't close this out. He got his CMA 3 years ago. So I had some people in the last 8 days to a month that we've sent CMAs to, that have requested CMAs, that we sent them their CMA. So that just means they were looking at their property and they thought, oh, hey, I want a full CMA. I don't just want this. And they asked me for it. So we were able to send it to them. But you can see as I go down, some of these folks have been in here 9 months, 8 months, 4 years, 2 years, 4 years, 9 months. Some of these people have been in here a long time. They don't all turn to, all the CMA requests, as always, don't all turn into sales, right? They don't all turn into listings, but a lot of them do. And sometimes they turn into referrals and other things. So the other thing is, it lets me look activity. For me, it lets me see what's happening. So it shows me in the last 30 days, how many homeowners we've sent to, how many have opened. So we have a 65% open rate right now. That's really good. And then how many home views people are kind of getting through here as well. And then it predicts for me who's motivated to sell. It tells me who they are. You can see he just messaged me. And she messaged me as well. I've actually spoken to both of them. And it also tells me based on their activity who's motivated to refi. Could be the same people in this case. So in this case, it's the same people. So I can talk with them, clarify, and then get them what they need. So it tells me how they're accessing my system as well. I don't have one on here now just because the lender I had, we decided not to work on this together, but it does let you add a co-sponsor. So you can actually add a loan officer to it, and then it opens up a whole suite of buyer tools as well. I haven't used this to manage my buyers at this point. I've just used this to manage my sellers and my CMAs, because what I like most about it is that it sends an automated CMA once a month to everybody that I load into the system, no matter what. So it keeps me in front of them every single month. And when I'm looking for listings, this is a really good place to go. And just call through people, even if I just call through and say, hey, you're getting the home bought every month. How do you like it? How much is it helping you? Right? What else can we do for you? So are you looking to buy or sell in the next 12 months? Right? I can have those conversations and kind of get an idea of where people are, especially if they have high activity and they're really using it. Where are they in the system? And it shows me everything that's been happening and all the activity forever and a day for these clients, probably more than I ever want to see, and keeps them super engaged. So it is a tool I recommend that you guys use. I don't make any money for saying that. There's no program or anything like that that I get. No affiliate program or anything like that. It's only $25 a month. It's very inexpensive. But it's been a really, really good tool for us and keeps us super engaged with our sellers. So I want to make sure I talked about that one today with everybody. I see we have a couple people here live. The other thing I would say right now when you're looking for listings is outside of loading all of your past transactions into a system like a HomeBot system, just making sure that everybody that you're connecting with, so your buyers that are coming through, that you're understanding if they're also sellers or not through those consults. You're really doing full consults for your buyers and understanding, are they also sellers? And because a lot of them are, and a lot of times we're missing the boat. I've worked with some agents recently that are helping people buy homes and they're not helping them sell homes. I'm like, why is that? Why do they have another agent on the other side? And a lot of times it's just, we jumped right on the I'll help you buy a home train. Maybe they were able to buy without selling, and we just never had that conversation. So making sure that we're understanding with every single person that we're engaging with, do they own a home today? And if they do own a home today, let's get them a CMA on that, whether they plan to sell that to buy or not, so they understand their value and how they're going to leverage those dollars. Okay. Any questions on obtaining seller listings, obtaining more listings?
Like my whole business model right now is just kind of like focusing on all listings.
Good. What's working for you?
So I'm a heavy caller for sale by owners. I work a lot of heavy for sale by owners. I'm going to open up and go get Redx again so I can get back into expireds and withdrawals and things like that. Right now it's mainly like just me posting social media videos and phone dials. And then my sync platform, I get a lot of leads through them too. But a lot of those are further out, you know what I mean? But a lot of those leads come in.
Yeah.
They're not Zillow, you know what I mean? They're not knocking on the door to go see something right now. But
right.
They're usually ready to do something, or they're usually sellers. Like 2 out of every 3 leads I come in are sellers. So of course it takes them a little bit longer. Between that and cold calling, the 4-7 business is like all I'm doing.
How many conversations are you finding that you need to have a week to keep your volume up?
A lot.
Okay. Do you know?
Like I don't really track. I should.
Yeah.
But like I'll open up Zillow, because that's where I get my physical leads from, and just go through however many people are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look at my contacts a couple of days later and I see all these random numbers here, if they didn't text me back, I'll just text them again. have you been able to accept an offer? And then if they do respond to my text message, then I'll start pinning them to the top of my screen.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to see like these are the conversations that are going somewhere, so that way they don't get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. So I'll give you the magic number. The magic number is you need 35 2-minute conversations per week, and that should result in 8 to 10 transactions a month. How do I know? Because that's what I sell every month for 10 years. So
Usually it's 35 2-minute.
plus minute conversations per week will result in 8 to 10 transactions a month over time. You need to give it some time to build that.
No, yeah. So like I just moved over to EXP.
Great.
It's probably been about a month and a half. And when I moved over here, I just basically like whitewashed my entire business and was like, this is what I'm doing now.
Calls work.
And that's really like pointing the finger at like I got my sync thing, so I have like lead generation coming in. But when it comes to me, it's like, no, like you get on the phone and you call the people who are saying like, I already have my hand up.
Yeah.
Probably the most and the respectfully hard-headed ones to work with, because I don't really need you. Why are you asking me? Like, no, go away. You're just trying to get me for my money. But
yeah. So you're call.
showing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish up.
No, it's like a thing of like trying to show my value. So like I've been telling myself like I need to have like a listing presentation or just a presentation that I can send over to somebody. Lickety split. Like, here's me. Like, this is what you're gonna get when you work with me. This is Darius. Like, I have a calendar for like if we are gonna work together. Starting on this Thursday, we'll do the photos, and then going into next week, we'll make sure we got a good listing. Before we go active, we'll make sure everything's good. And then that following Thursday, we'll go active. So like I got this whole thing where I send it over to them. I show them the commission structure and everything. So that way, when we sit down and we start talking about numbers, like what I'm bringing and who I am and what I, you know what I mean? Like that's already on the table. Like I tell them like my commission's negotiable. So like, here, take this. Tell me if it sounds like something you would be interested in. And then we can further out the conversation of whether it makes sense for us to meet.
Mm-hmm. How's that working for you?
Well, I did have a listing going this morning, but then when I talked to my title lady and I found out you do your due diligence so you don't get yourself messed over. All the documents that they thought that they had to do the thing that they were trying to do, we would have just been in a headache. So it works. I'll just spam out like 50, 60 text messages and then I'll go on about my day. I'll come back and make some phone calls and I go on about, you know what I mean? So it works. The conversations are there. If I would have did my due diligence this morning, I'd have a listing today.
Okay. Well, now you learn, right? So that's
yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you do your due diligence, because we get it, we price it, we get it on the market, we go under contract, everything's all good. We go to send it to the title company, and the title company says, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. I'd rather just have the conversation up front and like, yeah, let's fix this first and then do it the right way.
Yeah. So you get it later. So everything works if you work it, right? Everything works in volume, right? You just have to do enough volume. It all works. I like what you're saying. You know, when you talk about sync, all you're talking about is PPC leads. You're doing what Zillow does. You're just doing it for yourself. So if you're running Sync or Ylopo or Sierra or Google Leads, right? That's all that is. It's pay-per-click leads. You're all doing the same thing, just so we're kind of speaking to masses that'll watch this. And those take a little time to procure. Sometimes you get somebody that's ready today, but they take a little time to procure. On average, you need to touch someone 26 times that's come in on the web that doesn't know you, right? And touch 26 times. So that could be emails, that could be texts, that could be phone calls. It's a combination of things, right? In order for them to work with you. So that sometimes can happen in a short period of time, and sometimes that can happen in a very long period of time. But it just depends. Usually the psychology of those PPC leads is that they're looking to do something. Then it's about figuring out time frame from that for them, which is about life stuff. So it could be immediate or it could be 3 to 6 months or more, depending on kind of when they entered the web as they're kind of thinking about it. Whereas when you get somebody from a social media environment like a Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok environment, they were on there socializing. So the psychology there is a little different because they may not have been looking for buy-sell opportunities, but they saw something that you were running that brought them into your sync or your whatever system you're using, your Sierra, kind of brought them into your world. And they clicked on it because they know they want to do something eventually, but they weren't maybe quite ready now. Those can be longer. Those can be 6 to 12 months or more. I think sometimes what happens as agents is we see them all as the same. And so if they don't turn into deals right away, we don't do enough follow-up and we lose them. So,
well, yeah, that was definitely the learning curve for me because like Zillow lead is I'm going on a showing tomorrow or today.
Yeah.
And some of these was when they first started coming through, like the volume that I get at first was like kind of overwhelming, and I was kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't know if I can serve, but now I'm like a month and a half in messing with it. I'm starting to get the idea of like the conversations, and I like it this way more because then I have more control over my business. Because now while I'm having these conversations and I'm making these contacts, building a relationship, and I don't have somebody just randomly jumping down my throat wanting to go see the house today, that ain't even been pre-approved yet.
Yeah, you do. And I would say, remember, by the time a Zillow lead gets to you as an agent, it's been in their environment for a long time. In most cases, they've been nurturing that. So when you're doing your own PPC lead generation, you're the nurturer from the beginning. That's the difference. Some people, I have this 1-page document that I send them ahead of time, usually like right after a follow-up call, let them know all the things that we do for them when they hire us, not if, when they hire us to work with them on their listing, or all the things that we do for them. It's just a little summary page. I'll get this posted with the podcast. When this recording is posted, I'll get this posted with it too. So it just gives them a little 1-pager. I don't give them via email my entire listing presentation. They have to invite me over to get that. And so
it was different. I gave them more of like a me presentation.
Yeah, that's okay too. And so I have a 1-pager about me too. So if you feel like you need that to use, I do use the about me as well. But in terms of the value, I just do have a little 1-page summary that shows them what they get for the value. And I like the idea of offering a tiered commission. So commissions are negotiable, and based on the service that you'd like to receive, here are the different commission options on the listing side. And I always tell them we'll work together to talk about setting the buyer's agent commission. That way we don't have to. So I'm really only talking to them about the listing commission. I've been doing that my entire career, I'm in my 11th year. So it's not anything new or anything to do with this lawsuit. That's how I've always done it. I always talk to them about what my fee is, and I tell them we'll work together to establish a fee for the buyer's agent. Because although there's been all this media hype, folks, that's how we were supposed to be doing it our whole career. So, we were always supposed to be talking about
commission is sketchy, but can you dive into that? I think I might have an idea what you mean as far as like coming up with a plan to work on the buyer side.
Yeah. So sellers have always been able to say, I want to pay the buyer as an agent or I don't. They've always had that option to determine if they're going to assign a percentage to the brokerage to be shared with the other side. So how I've always talked about commission is I've always said to a seller, my commission is 3%, right? Now that's negotiable based on the level of service you want to receive. If you want a full service agent that does your photography and your video and manages your showings and has the proper signage and all the social media and all the things, right? I have a list that I show them. Then that's the 3% agent, right? Now there are times where I can give them a little bit less service and I can offer them 2 or 2.5 on my side. So it's negotiable even with me. I base it around service, right? The more service you get, the more you're going to pay me. So if you get a little bit less service and you're okay with that, then you can pay me a little bit less because I'm working a little less harder, right? So, but I always encourage them that we also want to assign a percentage of commission that the brokerage can pay the buyer's agent. And what I explain to them is by the time a buyer is shopping for a property, they have normally engaged with an agent to represent them. Not always, but in many cases, they've engaged with an agent to represent them. It's a high percentage of the time. And if they want that, they do deserve their own representation, right? Because if they engage me, I have to be, in my state, very neutral. dual agency here is very clear and it's very neutral. So I can, I can't coach them and negotiate for them exactly in the way their own agent would do. And I certainly then have to take a little bit of a different position with my sellers. So in most cases, I'm not going to want to do a dual agency. It doesn't mean I've never done it. I've had sellers ask me and I have. But in most cases, these buyers are already going to have an agent assigned to them or that they want to work with. And historically, most of our listings, the sellers have offered a commission. So the buyers have worked to save their down payment, to save their closing costs, or a portion of either side of that. And they don't always have the dollars available to also pay commissions. So to their buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent does need a salary. So if we've got buyers that have engaged agents that they want to represent them to look at homes, and we have buyers that don't have the dollars to pay their agents and are counting on the seller to pay that agent, it could disadvantage the seller to not offer a commission to the buyer's agent. So and how could it disadvantage them? Well, the buyer can decide, I can't buy that house because I can't afford to pay my agent commission. And it's important enough that I want this agent. So, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, I know I really wanted to see that house, but could you show me these other two first? And maybe if I like those, I'll settle for one of those, right? So I paint that picture for the sellers, just like I just did it for you. I have that conversation and I say, so no, you don't have to pay the buyer's agent anything, but you may get less showings and you may get less buyer opportunities. I can't guarantee it in either direction, but that may be what happens out of affordability. Now, if we can price you correctly, and we can put some dollars that make sense together for the buyer's agent, and we can advertise that. Now you open yourself up to more buyer opportunities, because whether the buyer's agent loves the commission in the system or not, which today here they can see it. I know that's going to change. In most of our MLS is going
60 days.
Right? So I won't be saying this anymore, right? But what I've been saying is whether they like the commission in the system or not, there is a commission there for them, right? And so they're going to be more likely to show your home and more likely to write that offer for your home if this should be the buyer's favorite. And sellers will sometimes say to me, well, what if they can't afford it? I said, well, in some cases, I would say it's a small percentage of the time, the buyer can't afford to pay their agent and is willing to and will. It's just not common, and so I don't know who the buyers are for your home today, and I don't know what their financial position is because they don't exist yet. You're not on the market. We haven't found them. So we're taking a chance. We're taking a risk when we don't assign a commission. I've been having this conversation for 10 years with sellers. My first listing appointment ever, crazy enough, a seller asked me, 10 years ago, why do I have to pay the buyer's agent? And I said, well, you don't. You don't, but you should, because I'm a buyer's agent too. I'm not just a listing agent, and I need a salary when I represent the buyer and help get your home sold because I'm bringing the buyer to you. I already had them. You provided the home and I helped you do that, but I already had the buyer. I'm bringing them to you. So I deserve a salary.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you never, I know when we talk about commissions, it gets a little sketchy. So I don't want to just start throwing numbers out there and get anybody in trouble. But so the number that you gave me, that's, I don't want to say significantly less, but that's less than what I offer. Just for my, that's my medium pack. And I'm probably going to change it, because I'm starting to see it and I don't want to just be hosing anybody for their money. So when you do a listing contract and you say you're splitting it, so you say I'm asking you, Mr. Seller, for 3%. When you talk about
side only, then we have to assign,
right.
Well, we're going to pay a buyer's agent on top of that.
So so in a sense, you'd be okay, so my commission is 3%, but I'm going to ask that we pay the buyer side 2.5%.
Correct. So it's a total commission of 5.5%. Should they agree to that? Because it's up to the seller. So it's just how I present it. I've never presented a commission as 6, 7, or 8%. I've charged 6, 7, and 8%. I've also charged 4 and 5%, right? But I have never presented it as a total commission. I've always presented it as listing side, buying side equals total commission. My whole career, I've always presented it that way. Here's what I would like to make, and here's why. Here's what I recommend we pay the buyer's agent, and here's why. And here's your total commission. I've always presented it. Yeah. And I talk about, when I present each number, I talk about the value. Here's what I do for that 3%, right? Here's what the buyer's agent does for their 2, 2.5, 3, whatever my seller is going to give them. Here's the total. Does that make sense? So that's how I've always talked about it. And I know a lot of us nationally are like up in arms about this change. It's not a change.
There's not one. It's like, I'm
not a change. It as less pattern than talking about the individual pieces. And then it's just new for you. But it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just new.
So I've always just done mine as a split. That's the whole thing. Just do it as a split.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's what I'm doing, right? So
it's all the same thing. I was just saying,
it's just how you talk about it, right? I think I see Brigida. Did I say it right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I have one question. When would you charge 7 or 8%? Because usually not usually, I mean, there's a lot of agents would charge 5.5% for seller and buyer agent. So when would you charge 7 or 8%? What would you like offer or give the seller in addition to, what you do when you charge 5.5%?
So when I look at a listing, I look at the price point I realistically think it's going to sell for. I'm in a Midwestern market, so I could have listings as low as $100,000, right? So, and I could also have listings as high as $1 million or $2 million, right? But those 700,000 plus are a little less common. The average price point in my area is 270,000. So as a business person, I like to make about 5,000 on average per transaction, right? Gross. That's what I like to bring home. Does that mean I don't ever bring home less or I don't ever bring home more? No, right? They're commissions. So they vary and they're all negotiable. But I like to have an average commission on my side of about 5,000. And so whenever I'm looking at a listing, I'm going to seller with what I feel I need to charge them based on that kind of methodology is of what I want to owe. I want to be able to bring home as a salary.
Okay.
So that I can have the income that I require by the end of the year, right? Over all of my transactions. Now it's negotiable. So usually it's those lower price point homes that I'm asking for more of a 7 or 8% because I might need a little bit more on the listing side, especially because I'm putting more effort. The lower price listings take more effort, take more time in a lot of cases, even more marketing, even sometimes because it's a lower price home, it's not getting less photography. It's not getting less video. It's not getting less marketing. Perhaps you could argue it needs more, but it's getting the same treatment as some of the higher level listings. So that's where I might have a total commission as higher because I feel like I need a little bit more on the listing side.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sometimes I get that, Brigida, and sometimes I don't because it just depends on how well I demonstrate my value to my seller, how they feel about it. And then I want to make sure we establish a commission for the buyer's agent on all my listings. I haven't had one, knock on wood, my day may come, but where they refused, to pay the buyer's agent anything. I hope it doesn't come into my land, into my world here, but if it does, I'm prepared to deal with that, but I'm hoping that it doesn't. I have certainly had the conversation many times, why do I have to pay the buyer's agent? I'm like, you don't have to, but you want to, and here's why you want to. And then I help them establish the number because they don't know what to establish. So the conversation usually gets to, okay, well, what should that be? What should it look like? And there's no established number, but, in fairness, here's what a buyer's agent maybe would like to earn and how I used to get that number, but kind of, we all know what it is in our area, right? What I used to do is I would open up the MLS and show them. Like, look, the majority of our commissions for buyers agents are between 2 and 3% in my area. That's where they are. There's an occasional 1.8, which is a weird number, but there's an occasional that. but they're really all between that 2 and 2.5% mark. And if we can get a 2.25 or 2.75 or 3, those are kind of the outliers, but they do happen. And then it just becomes about a math equation to a net number for the seller. And how do we get there? And sometimes if they're being a little thin on the buyer's agent side, then I'll take a little off the listing agent side, but I'm, to kind of make it work for both sides. And so, but I do that at the table with the seller, and that's what goes in the contract, and that's what we sign off on, because there's no change when I leave them. Like, that's what went in the contract, that's what they signed, that's what we're doing. But I want them to build the commission, and I know that's uncomfortable to do with another human or even a couple. It can be uncomfortable, but once it becomes a habit and you're used to doing it, and they really feel like they built it, it goes really well. And it also helps you get more referrals from them, because they feel like they built their commission. They don't feel like they were handed a 6 or 7 or 8% or a 5% number, because part of the challenge, especially when I meet sellers that hadn't worked with me before, that maybe had sold homes before, they would say, what are you, 6%? What are you, 5%? And they were usually referring to a number they were given in the past by someone else. And their experience when they talk to me is they were handed this number. They didn't understand how it was built. They didn't participate in building it. So I say to them, when I go on a listing appointment, I'm there in person. The first thing they do is show me the house, right? Now there's more to it, but in a nutshell, they show me the house. I have the numbers ready in a range. The next thing I do is sit down with them. I don't whip out a listing presentation. I have it, but they don't need it. I whip out a net sheet and I talk to them, and I whip out my comps and I say, let's set your price. And I've already worked up a net sheet or two, which I could change on the fly if I needed to, right? And we have a price. So they show me the house. We have a price conversation. We set their price. Then I say, let me show you how that nets down. I whip out the net sheet and I have the commission conversation as a part of the net sheet conversation. And then to help me build, and I say, look, this is what I put in as a placeholder. Let's talk about it. And I list it as 2 lines. Listing agent, buyer's agent, and that's a total of, and I write total commission of. So of course, I'm loading in my higher commission. So if I would need if I wanted 6% right on as a total commission, that's how I loaded my net sheet. But I'm saying to them, totally negotiable. Let's break it down and walk through it. And so we're spending time when I get to that commission portion of the net sheet, we're spending a little bit of time there before I finish up the net sheet and show them their net. Because we're talking about, what are you getting for the 3% you're giving Amy? If we're going to give 2 or 2.5 or 3% of the buyer's agent, what are you getting for that? What are they doing for that? So we're having those conversations right there. Now once I've gotten through it and they're like, yeah, I like that net, and we've set everything, all I'm doing is, okay, great. Any other questions before they sign the documents and get you on the market? No, great. And then I do timeline, right? Okay, you want to be sold by this date, so you need to be on the market by this date. So the photographer's coming on this date. I just tell them, I don't even have an appointment. I figure I'll get a photographer to come there on that date. And I do. If I have to change it, it's no big deal. I mark out the timeline, we fill out the docs, and I leave with the contract. Every time. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. I know I ran over time. So, all right. So hopefully
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. Hopefully that was helpful for everybody. I didn't know that was going to go into that conversation, but obviously I need it. So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.